Hello guys, hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to show you how to find and delete duplicates in a SQL table. So this is a very important data cleaning skills, and it's very important whether you are preparing reports, working on real world project, data analytics project, um, preparing for SQL interview, or rather data analytics interview. So let's jump straight to it. So here we have an employee table. So this is our employee table. It has 7 rows. So the question is, find the duplicates in a given table. So first of all, we'll have to find the duplicates in this particular table. So we have this is our table that we're going to use to find the duplicate. So since this table is very small, you can easily find the duplicates. For example, the word Jen, name Jen, it's repeated twice, and we have MID4, which is Zara, it is repeated thrice. So since this table is very small, you can easily find the number, the employee IDs that are repeated, or the duplicates of those employee IDs. But when the table is very long and the data it has numerous rows and columns, therefore you'll have to write query that will only find the duplicates. So for that one, we're just going to write an SQL query which will help us find only the duplicates records in this particular table. So we're just going to write select MID, and then we're going to count one as count number of rows, count number of rows. Let's just name it this way: count number of let's just name it count rows from our table is employee. So our table is employee, and then we're going to group by MID. So what this query will do is that it will group, then it will put the employee ID with the same employee ID into a single, the same employee ID into a single group, and then in each group we're going to count the number of rows in those particular group. So for example, if the employee ID, for example, if the MID1, they will be put in a single group, and then MID2, they will be put in a single group, and then we're going to count the number of rows in those particular group. So emp id 1, the number of rows having emp id 1 is only 1, so therefore we'll have count 1. And then emp id 2, the number of rows having emp id 2 will be 2. So and then we have emp id 3, so the number of emp id 3 will be only 1. Also we have emp id 4, so we have 3 emp id in this. So when we run this query, let's run it. So when we run this query, we can see the emp id 1, it only had, so let's just run. So for example, the emp id 1, it only appears in one row, so therefore the count of rows is 1. And then we have the emp id 2, it appears how many rows? 2, 1, 2, so the count of rows is 2. Emp id 3, it appears in how many rows? 1. Emp id 4, it appears in how many rows? 3. Therefore the count of rows is 3. Therefore, after this, we've now count the number of rows in each emp IDs, right? So therefore, if the employees, the emp ID appears more than once, the count will be greater than 1. So when the emp ID appears more than 1, the count will be more than 1. So for example, emp ID 2, it appears how many? 2 times. Therefore the count ID is more than 1, which is 2. Emp ID appears only one in only one row. Therefore we're going to use a having clause to filter the duplicates. So the duplicates are only emp ID that are having count rows more than 1. So the emp ID having count rows more than 1 is, we have emp ID 2 and we have emp ID 3. Therefore we're going to use having clause to filter. So it's count 1, greater than 1. So the count rows greater than 1, those are the duplicates. Therefore let's run this one. Yeah, so our duplicates are emp ID 1, emp ID 2 and emp ID 4. So we first of all grouped our emp ID, the emp ID having those emp ID with the same number. We've been grouped in the same group, and then those group, we've counted the number of rows in those group, and then we've filtered the number of rows greater than 2 using the having clause. So I think that up to that point you've understood. So let's now proceed to the next question. So our next question is remove duplicates from a table. So this question Now we have find the duplicates in a given table. Now it's time now to remove the duplicates in that particular table. So therefore we will going to use write our query select from, we're going to assign row number to each row number to each, we're going to assign to each row, that is over over then we partition by emp id, then we order by emp id, yeah, and we call this, let's call this one rnk from the table which is employee table. So what will this query going to do is that we'll partition the employee ID. That means employee ID having the same number, they will be in a single partition, and out of that partition we're going to assign number in each and every row in that particular partition. So for example, let's say for example you have emp id 1, so this will be, so all rows having emp id 1 will be in a single partition. So for example this one will be in a single partition, therefore we will assign it 1, and then emp id 2, this will be in another, will be in a single partition, therefore we will assign, so how many rows does this partition have? 2, therefore we will assign 1 and 2. Here emp id 3, this one will also be in another partition, therefore we're going to assign 1. And then we have emp id 4, this one will be in another partition, therefore we're going to assign 1, 2, 3. So let's run our query here, and there we click. So you see our partition having emp id 1, it's only one row that is falling under this partition, so we'll assign 1. And then we have another partition here having emp id 2, so this partition have two emp id, emp id having the letter 2, so we're going to assign 1 and 2. We have another partition emp id, this one is only having a single, we're just going to assign just a single one. And then we have another partition 4, so partition 4, it has 3 rows, therefore we're going to assign 1, 2 and 3. So after we've assigned our partition, we've partitioned our emp id, and we've assigned the we've assigned a row number to each of those partition. We're now going to delete the duplicates of those partitions. So for example, in partition 2 we've assigned two rows, 1 and 2. Therefore we will only want to remain with the first partition, and we're going to remove the second partition. And then we have partition 4, we've assigned 3 numbers. Therefore we will only interested to remain with the first row, and we're going to delete the. Therefore let's use CTE. So with CTE as delete from CTE where RNK is greater than 1. So what it will do, it will use this table to delete the RNK having greater than 1. That therefore will only therefore this one will be deleted, this one will be deleted, this one will be deleted. We're only going to remain with this one, this one, this one. So we're only going to remain with 4 rows in our final product, in our final table. So let's execute this one. Yeah, so if we run the table again, execute, so we're going to have 4 rows in this particular table. The other rows have been deleted. So if you find this video helpful, please like, comment and share so that I can have more energy to produce this kind of SQL interview question. Thank you, and let's meet to the next video.